We're back with another edition of Sundays with Serby, and this week New York Post sports columnist Steve Serby caught up with a fellow legend in New York sports media. That would be Bruce Beck. He is the lead sports anchor of WNBC New York. Now, let's catch up with the legend that is Steve Serby. Steve, what's going on? Like the attire for the third week in a row, you're wearing a jacket. I love it.
Yeah, again, Men's Warehouse, shout-out, still waiting for some endorsement opportunities. But I actually thought about doing this segment at Men's Warehouse, but I wasn't sure about their Wi-Fi situation. But, yeah, I keep buying them, and we'll see what happens. I'll have another one next week.
Well, I like it. I like the Miami Vice look. It's very stylish. Now we just got to get our guy, Zach Braziller, to follow the same suit when he comes on with you. Suit, pun intended there.
Well,
with suit.
Very good. Yeah, well, good luck with that. But we'll get him. I will forcefully put a jacket, a white sports jacket, on Braziller, and maybe you can have the two of us in studio, and you will see me put it on him forcefully against his will.
I'm here. I don't really like the situations where people are doing things against people's will, but I'm here for this in this case. I am here for it. Now, Steve, to get into your Q&A this week, and I think for fellow sports reporters and anchors like myself here in New York, Bruce Beck is undoubtedly one of the best to ever do it. The man is in his 47th year in sports broadcasting, 43rd year in New York television. He's worked at WNBC for 27 years. But one of the things that I found interesting from your Q&A with him was that it was a challenge for him early in his career to find his own voice. What was that process like for him to find his own voice, and what did you think that it taught him about resiliency and authenticity in sports journalism?
Well, like so many other people in the broadcast industry, Marv Albert was Bruce's hero. He wanted to be Marv Albert. He wanted to do what Marv Albert did. He imitates Marv Albert. He memorized 4 or 5 of the commercials that Marv Albert did. He knows all the lyrics to the Schaefer beer commercials, Manhattan Manufacturers Hanover Trust. But he had a high-pitched voice. And Bruce keeps saying he needed reps. He tells that to his campers, his broadcast campers. You need reps. And he didn't really find his voice until he was in his 40s. He liked Howard Cosell. He liked Keith Jackson. He liked Kurt Gowdy. But he does a remarkable Marv Albert imitation, one of the better ones I've heard. And look, it's obvious Bruce has certainly found his niche. He's a beloved legend in this town, an institution, tireless, passionate, builder of relationships, driven to be the best, driven to provide unique content for NBC's audiences, and very proud of the fact that he's first and foremost a family man, married for 43 years to the love of his life, Janet, grandfather of 6, loves it, wouldn't trade that for anything. 2 sons, John and Michael. Just he's one of a kind. He really is. He's a mensch. He's just a good guy, one of the all-time good guys, and one of the all-time legends, one of the best at what he does, and someone to emulate for anybody that goes into the broadcast industry.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I would.
And he was in the Olympics when I spoke to him at the Olympics in Paris. He gave me an hour and 15 minutes of his time. And he's just remarkable. Just energetic, tireless. Again, one of a kind.
One of a kind, indeed. One of the best, no doubt. And in this Q&A, Steve, Bruce shared some powerful memories about the late Anthony Causey, the great sports photographer and our former colleague here at the New York Post. Bruce described him as the heart and soul of New York. How did Bruce express the impact of Causey's loss on him personally and professionally, and what did this conversation reveal about the camaraderie and bonds formed within the New York sports community?
Well, Bruce actually, I could hear his voice cracking when he started talking about our dear friend Causey, whose loss was a tragedy and devastated all of us at the New York Post, and most of us, if not all of us, who knew Anthony Causey. He was the face of COVID. That's the way Bruce paints Anthony. Anthony lost his life early on during the COVID pandemic. And Bruce, to this day, has the texts that he got from Anthony on his phone. And whenever he reads them, he breaks up. It's Bruce. It's bad. It's real bad. Please look after my family and look after my kids. And it was heartbreaking to everybody. And again, nobody was more about the fabric of New York than Anthony Causey. And it takes one to know one, because Bruce Beck is certainly part of that fabric as well. And it's no surprise that the two of them would bond the way they did. But sorry about this interruption. Sorry about that. But again, Causey was a legend, and Bruce Beck is a legend. And ask me about some of his predictions for the New York sports scene. Well,
that was very interesting in his Q&A too, Steve, because he had a lot of predictions. You asked him about a bunch of teams throughout this Q&A. So he had predictions. He talked about the Yankees. Let's start with baseball, because he talked about the Yankees and what he thought they could do. What do you think about the Yankees and the Mets? Let's do both New York baseball teams. What do you think about what they can do this season?
Well, he thinks that Steve Cohen is a threat to steal Juan Soto from the Yankees. He thinks the Yankees, if they hit in the postseason, can win it all, or they could lose quickly. And he thinks that Aaron Judge has a real legitimate shot to break his 62 home run record that he set a couple of years ago. He thinks Aaron Rodgers provides hope for the Jets and Jets fans. He thinks Rick Pitino, your buddy, can lead St. John's back to the NCAAs and maybe advance to the Sweet 16. And he's just full of optimism. Bruce always regards things as half full. The glass is always half full with Bruce. And he's just so uplifting and so energetic. I didn't ask him about the Nets, but he thinks the Knicks, with Jalen Brunson and their new captain, the Knicks can possibly win an NBA championship with Mr. Brunson as their captain. So Messier, he talked about Messier being the greatest leader he's ever been around, and a lot of people, of course, echo that. And just so fun to talk to Bruce. I could have talked to him for hours, but he had Olympic events to cover. I had nothing to do, but he had Olympic events to cover. One of a kind, Hall of Famer, a legend, and the way people talk about Bruce Beck is the way they're going to be talking about Dexter Henry in the years to come.
Wow. Well, that's an honor, sir, for you to even say that. Bruce Beck is somebody who has given me a lot of inspiration in my career, and talking to him anytime I'm able to do. He is one of the legends. So if I'm ever spoken the way I would speak of him, you speak of him, and I think other people would, that would be an honor. But for people to get that vibe, definitely check out Steve Serby's Q&A with Bruce Beck this week. It is a fantastic one. And Steve, kudos to you. I told you this before we started recording. Kudos to you for giving the flowers to one of the legends in New York sports broadcasting, and Bruce Beck, and having people read what he's about and what he means to the sports broadcasting community here in New York. We appreciate that. We also appreciate you, and we'll see you next week. And I'm excited to see if there will be another legendary blazer that you'll be wearing next week. That's what I'm intrigued to see.
There will be. Trust me, there will be.
There we go. All right, Zach Braziller, you see that. Legendary blazer from Steve Serby. You got to step your game up. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate you. I'll see you next week.
Anytime. Thanks.
All right.